everybody. I'm glad that you guys stuck around. So Jessica Kruger and myself are going to speak to you about community of practice. So she's going to help me man the reins here. Let's see, so a short introduction. I work as a learning designer at the Center for Educational Innovation. And part of my job is I have a great opportunity to teach UB faculty best teaching strategies, techniques, things that worked in the class, things that didn't work in the class. And part of what I do is best course design. And that kind of all of those examples that the professors provide in class, I kind of take, I remove all of the specifics, but then I can kind of spit that back out, for lack of a better word, of examples for the other faculty members in my class to be able to learn from. So with that, it's kind of like we're building a community of practice. And what we tried to do is I asked Jessica Kruger, because she's so innovative with her thinking and her ideas. I'm like, hey, what do you think about putting a community of practice together where UB faculty could come together and kind of toss around ideas and work different scenarios out? And that's where this whole thing came about. So Jess is going to kind of pick it up from there and explain a little bit more about community of practice. And then we're going to work into a nice little activity into groups and see how community of practice actually works.
Thanks so much, Maggie. It's really funny. Maggie tells the true story, the very PC version of how this started. It was mostly her twisting my arm and saying, we need this. We need a way for faculty to engage with each other. And I said, okay, fine, let's do this. Let's see how this works. And this is really, we hope today that as you're learning a little bit more about a community of practice, this is actually all sales pitch for you to join us. So stay tuned for the low price of $19.99. Oh, never mind. We'll just be going through this, and then we'll talk about what we are actually doing on the ground. So I'm Jessica Kruger, and I'm joined by a fantastic learning designer, Maggie, who has been instrumental in creating this group. So there's a few expectations that I have in every presentation. Please actively engage. It's no fun if I'm just talking at you and you're sitting there. I know everyone's checking emails now as you're probably going through your day, but please use the chat feature. I always think it's important if you're a digital person or a paper person, to maybe connect some ideas, write down some questions, and maybe build yourself a mind map of how this fits together, or something that you're interested in learning more about. And as we learned today from Flower Darby, you gotta have fun. Emotions are really important in learning and help us to really solidify this information and explore the content. So I hope you will join in some witty banter as we go through this presentation. Okay, so any good presentation has to start with some objectives. So Maggie's going to go through what we're going to do today.
We're going to literally read through that list, but describe a community of practice. We'll give you the textbook definition of that. Discuss the importance of idea sharing in education, because I know, as you know, we're kind of taking away that face-to-face component, walking around the halls at school, if you will, and kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. But don't let that stop you, and try to find other channels and other avenues. And this could be one of them to, again, share the ideas. Explore ideas discussed in the community. So we'd like to have, I'm trying to get a good handle on where I can keep all of the resources that you all share. And if you have any suggestions, I heard Padlet is very good, but that's kind of like a nice opportunity for everybody to kind of dig in and say, you know what, I have this issue. I'm wondering how I can solve it in class. And, you know, if we have some nice resources that we can pull and dive into, I think that that's beneficial for us all. We're going to also engage in a discussion around current topics. So specifically about online learning, and work in groups to kind of identify some solutions.
Excellent. So you're in for an exciting ride. But first, I want you to take a moment and what is teaching to you? Teaching is blank. Take a moment, whatever word comes to your mind, go ahead and throw that in the chat, or words. The greatest challenge. Yeah, Maureen. David, my passion, work, that's very true. Preparing students for the next step, communication, sharing of information. That's awesome. Empowerment, that's a really powerful word. Fun, I love this. Very difficult and very rewarding. Yeah, there's so many ways in which you can describe teaching and educating or communicating or perseverating, as sometimes we feel, but inspiring people, really. And we all, I love the art and a science. We all wear many hats. And as you've learned through these presentations, some of us are more adept at some of those hats, and some are more challenging. It is an art and a science, and it's emotional, and it's lonely sometimes. I'm sure all of you have pulled out your course evals and maybe had a glass of wine next to you and read those, because some of this stuff is tough, right? And the only way we make it easier is by having each other and sharing some of these ideas, as you've seen today, and as you'll see a little bit more in this presentation. So this is why we really need each other, because it is all of these words, it is all of these things, and it's something that you're probably not just born with, right? It's something you have to cultivate and learn from and about each other. And so ultimately, the idea of a community of practice is really a group of people who share that passion. Many of you put the word passion, or something that exudes passion, for something that they know how to do and who interact regularly to learn better, right? You want to learn to be a better teacher. And maybe it's not to be a better teacher, maybe it's to save you some time, maybe it's to save you some anguish, maybe it's to help cultivate that passion within your students. There are so many reasons why we want to engage and continually learn more about this art and science. So how it works, right? There's a whole body of literature on communities of practice. But ultimately, it has these 3 domains. And the first domain is the area of shared interest and key issues. So this isn't a club, but we do sometimes call it the Cool Kids Club. We all share an interest, and we all value each other's collective competence. We all want to learn from and about each other. It's a community, and the community aspect is so important. As you've heard, not only students need community, but faculty need community. We need to support each other, we need to build those relationships, and we need to help each other grow and expand what we're doing. And then practice. You know, we're all practitioners of a specific art or genre. We want to share resources and experiences. How many times have you thought, how do I make group work? That is one thing that I'm continually looking to unlock the secret key to. Sharing stories and practices, it's so important. But ultimately, we want to bring people together who want to share this expertise. And our group currently has first-year faculty to very experienced faculty. And every single session with our community of practice, you walk away with something. You walk away with a nugget of knowledge, and that's what it's supposed to be. You also kind of feel a little bit better, as I joke that it's pedagogical therapy. So another reason why community of practices are important is because oftentimes we walk down the hall and our colleagues are in our same discipline, right? And in that specific discipline, you may be teaching a specific way. You may feel a little isolated in what you're doing. And you might continue to do things the way that people have always done it. We can all realize that of, well, I've always given a multiple choice test in that class, so that's what we're going to continue to do. But really, pushing those boundaries, breaking down those silos, and working with each other is where the real magic happens. It's so important that we learn from people in other areas and learn different teaching styles that can really complement our overall philosophy. So I'm really curious about this. How did you learn to teach? Tell me a little bit about that in the chat. How did you learn to teach? Oh, yeah, trial by fire, trial and error, just by doing. Someone threw you off the deep end, right? Oh, good mentors are really important. Observation. Yeah, emulating some of your best teachers, pulling that information. Assisting, some people start as teaching assistants. Learning from others' mistakes, we can all point out those. Telling stories, making them exciting. That's great. You know what no one mentioned? No one really mentioned that they were taught how to teach, right? And in many ways, most of us are not taught how to teach. I'm one of the incredibly thankful ones who actually had a course on college teaching during my PhD. And that really changed my perspective on teaching, and my PhD program really put an emphasis on education, not just research. Now, that's highly unusual. Most people are not taught how to teach. And so we're all in the same boat trying to figure out how to row with one paddle as we have to get down the river without falling down the waterfall. So this is a reason why we want to continue to learn from each other. We want to support each other. We want to help each other to figure out some of those best practices. And some of you mentioned, you're usually pulling qualities from others that you think are important. We all can think of that one really great teacher that we've had, or that really great mentor. And maybe you're lucky enough to have multiple. It's important that we really pick up some of those qualities, not only from those mentors, but others who are continuing to grow and explore and blaze trails in education. I think I was very much a fangirl this morning as Flower Darby was presenting. I was like, I love her book. And so, that's what we want to create in each other, learning how to work with and learn from everyone. So Maggie's going to tell us a little bit more how our community of practice kind of works and the need for different perspectives.
Absolutely. And true to what you just said, I listened to Flower, and she got me so excited and so motivated. And I thought, wow, I really need to get more animated in my pronunciation and my presentations. And I think that's kind of fun. I'd love to see people in their elements and how receptive and open, and I love learning from that. So the need for multiple perspectives, I know I mentioned that as a learning designer, I listen to all of your stories, and they all come in from different disciplines. And the nice thing about it is there's little pieces that you could absolutely take and manipulate. I'll use the word manipulate in order to work into your environment. And, you have your different situational factors, meaning, are you teaching synchronously versus asynchronously? Do you have undergraduate versus graduate level students? Do you have large classes, small classes, that type of thing? So the little bits of different perspectives, and then just thinking a little bit outside of the box and how to make that work for you. And that's the part of having those different perspectives that is super beneficial for everybody involved, in my opinion. And I think that that's true for people that have sat in on the academies as well as sat in onto the community of practice. Everybody comes away with something, just what Jess said, is you come away with, oh, you know what, that would have worked, or that could have worked, or let's try this. Write down an idea and, hash it out with somebody.
Excellent. Thanks for that. So before we dive into some activities, I want to go over an important part of teaching that I think is often forgotten, and that is reflecting on teaching practices. Reflective teaching is so important because it allows you to take the time to consider what works and what needs to work. Ultimately, most of us have some sort of research component in what we do at the university. And this is figuring out basically a scholarship of teaching and learning. How do we know what works, and how do we continue to evolve as educators? So this is a very simplified diagram of what reflective teaching practices are. You could look at Kolb's learning cycle or Gibbs' reflective cycle or Schoen's reflection in action to really get a broader view of what reflective teaching is. But at the simplest way to explain it is you teach, you self-assess, you consider what's happening, and then you change that practice, and then you teach again. And we all do this. In the presentations that you heard, people are continually assessing what they're doing and continually making changes to revise and edit how they're doing things. And so I often hear, well, this takes a really long time. I don't have time to reflect. Well, you can reflect in action. Many of you do formative assessments in your courses where you're asking students questions, evaluating their answers, and deciding if you need to put more emphasis on those topics. The same can go for other components of a course. I'm interested in you can use your reactions here. Does anyone currently use reflective teaching practices? You can do one of those reactions. Oh, good, Amy. Got some others. Yeah, I see some thumbs up. So not too many of us are using these. David, great. And so reflecting on your teaching can be incredibly powerful. And it helps you to really identify some of these areas. Now, the reason I bring this up is because if you don't know what's not working, how can you ask for help, right? Or if you don't understand what areas you need to improve on, how can you ask others? And so this helps with personal growth and weaknesses. You can figure out what you want to focus on maybe for that semester or explore. Yeah, jotting down notes is one of the perfect ways to do this in a in-class notebook. It helps you to improve your overall courses. I mean, how many times have you gone from fall to spring semester and are like, I remember something didn't work well, but I don't remember what exactly that was? This can save you so much time to really figure out those exact details. And it really creates a more positive student experience. So as you're continually changing content, you can see, well, maybe it worked. Maybe I need to go back to the drawing board. I teach courses that are quite large, and we do a lot of writing in my courses. Students do not understand APA style when they come to me. They just don't. Writing is hard. We all know writing is hard. And so I continue to tweak the way I teach APA style until I feel more and more comfortable with how students are really interacting with that. And that's one thing that I really love doing in courses, because you can see that effort equal reward. Their papers are better. You can adjust and explore other practices. So that continual quality improvement, it's something that you can strive for and really hone in on, well, maybe this doesn't link to this. Well, I'm going to explain that a little bit better. You can test out something new. Those who know me know I kind of jump into things a little bit fearlessly. And I think it's important that you do find your boundaries, right? Figure out and refine your philosophy of what you're doing. I love new technology. I love trying new things. Now, that's not everyone, right? Some people are, no, I don't want to try that. I don't want to try that technology. And I don't blame you, because sometimes it can backfire, but you don't know until you try. So when we think about turning reflection into action, this is where that magic happens. Now, reflection can take time, but as you saw, 2 minutes a day, this can be really incredible to simply put down some notes. I love that someone put in the chat, discussing with teaching assistants what problems you may have with students or things that come up. I love using my teaching assistants to say, hey, what did I fail at today? What didn't students understand? Where did they start, pulling up Amazon and buying pillowcases? And they're really great at identifying those areas. This can really inspire you. So I don't know how many of you are feeling right now, but currently I'm at that oh crap moment. Class starts next week and I have so much to do. And I really needed this inspiration of hearing Flower Derby, hearing others, interacting with all of you to really continue to push through in some of these most challenging times. Courage. When you turn your reflection into action, I think it brings out a little bit of that fearlessness in you and provides you the courage to continue to try something new. Every success builds more success, and every failure teaches you a lot. And having others to support you. And this is really why we're pitching this community of practice to you. Why you need others, because if you don't have others to say, hey, just tweak it this much, or hey, have you tried it this way? You'll never reach that continual growth and be able to grow as an educator, as a person, as a practitioner. So, the common challenges that we see, and I wish I had $1 every time someone asked me these questions because I wouldn't be here. Engagement, right? We've heard this term engagement come up day after day, presentation after presentation. How do I get students to turn on their cameras? How do I get them to interact? How do I use discussion boards? How do I get them to think deeper? These are all things that we're all wondering, right? And I wish there was this magic wand that we could wave and it's all fixed. But it's more challenging than that, because we have to think of the context in which we're teaching, people's abilities. We talked about people's connections, computer connections, internet. How do you deliver content? What modality do you deliver content in? These are the questions that can be really challenging to focus on. How do I create more authentic assessments? How do you streamline those? How do I save time grading? And how do I provide some quality feedback to students? And these topics come up time and time again, and in different areas, right? Sometimes it's at the beginning of the semester, sometimes it's in the middle, sometimes it's just figuring out how do I get through 97 papers in 3 more days. And so this is why we need support for each other and with each other. Okay. So where do you turn to for advice? Is it Flower Derby's book? Is it your colleagues? Or do you just kind of hope, mirror, mirror on the wall, how can I become a better teacher in the fall? We have a site that was posted here that is a good one to turn to. Others? Colleagues, that's great. mentors, ask students what's working for them. That's an awesome way to get information. Hey, David, where do you turn for advice?
The community of practice to which I belong on campus.
Oh, tell me more about that, David.
You're in charge of it. Why am I doing all the work?
Okay, so David was a plant to be part of our commercial here. But it is a great place to turn to is UB Talk. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So hopefully by now you're convinced that you do need other people. You do need a community to help to support you in teaching. So we're gonna try this out. In fact, what we're gonna do is move into some breakout rooms. And what I want you to do is quickly introduce yourself. We're all academics, so we love to talk about ourselves, but just a quick introduction. And then in the chat for your breakout room, just put a challenge that you're facing right now. And then the group needs to work together to figure out what sort of challenge you're going to discuss. And so we're going to have kind of smaller rooms. There's going to be about 4 participants per room, maybe 5. And in this room, you're going to have a mini community of practice. So I want you to share ideas, some best practices, and ways that you can work with each other. I love it when there's an activity, people are like, I gotta go. But thanks for you who are sticking around. Okay, so we're gonna take about 7 to 10 minutes in these rooms. I'll pop around to say hello. If you have a CEI representative in your room, you will, they can serve as the representative for this and kind of guide the discussion. If you don't, pick someone, so whoever gets the short straw. Okay, we'll see everyone shortly. Looking forward to seeing what you come up with. I'd like you to report back if possible. This should be an exciting adventure. See you soon. Did you guys have a conversation? Oh yeah, Monica, David, I saw you guys were in a room together. Some of my favorite people. That's great.
Yeah, David is great. I've never met him before.
And you're great too, Monica.
He has to go on your favorite people list. You know how we all keep those, so.
He's already there. He's already there.
Okay, I'm going to close all the rooms. Everyone's going to be sad because they're having some pretty robust conversations, but we'll bring them back. I think that's the worst part about breakout rooms is having to close them and then no one wants to come back.
Sorry, I got booted out again and then my computer died. I'm back.
All right. Everyone's off in breakout room land, so they'll come back soon enough. 22 seconds until they all get cranky. I always want to play like the Jeopardy music as I'm waiting.
While we're waiting, is there like a kind of thing I can send to my colleagues for our little community, for the Cool Kids Club? There's that link I saw Maggie, but there's like, I don't know what to say to them. Like, hey, you like to teach? And then they'll all say no, they're done. All right.
We may be having a problem because I closed. Okay, everyone's coming back now. It's like, they should be coming back. Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for rejoining and having some really robust conversations. Anyone want to be, really daring and tell us what your group was talking about? Give us a little example.
I'll start. This is Monica Carter. I'll start while people join. David and I had a really nice conversation. His biggest challenge was workload, just the incredible amount of workload that he's got for the semester. And his course of action basically described it as triage, that tackle the problems as they come, and working through the community of practice to deal with some of those issues, even if it's just getting together and saying this is tough.
That's
So
excellent.
it was a great conversation. So thanks, David.
Another group want to tell us what they're chatting about? I heard some really great conversation topics.
I can share ours. We had two faculty. We had, what did you call us, the A group? We had 3 instructional designers and two faculty. However, the conversation turned to group work and managing those large classes. So kind of similar idea. One faculty had about 230 students, has no TAs, and how to just get that engagement and get the students to collaborate and manage the group work type of thing. And then the other faculty had about 40 students. And again, she, struggling with a little bit of the face-to-face. She does a little bit of both face-to-face and the online component, and just, managing all of that. So very similar idea with the classroom management strategies.
That's great. So hopefully you got a little bit of a taste of what it's like to really have a community to begin to talk about some of these really tough topics. I mean, this is a very abbreviated version. As we move through our community and talk about some of these tough topics, it gets heated sometimes. We have different philosophies, we have different ideas, but as you heard, it feels good to talk about these issues. It can be really helpful, especially if you're having a tough day or you've had a tough week or a tough semester. It's always good to be able to talk through and discuss with like-minded folks. And so Maggie's going to tell you about our community of practice and how you can get involved.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. So the acronym is UB Talk, UB Teaching and Learning Community of Knowledge. The idea, again, is just that we would love to have as many folks and voices and ideas being tossed around within our meetings. We meet Tuesdays. I kind of did a little Google poll with the past participants of what day worked best. And Tuesdays works well at noon, and I'll share that link in a couple of seconds. The topics that we decided that worked, that needed discussions, was engagement versus motivation in your classroom. How do you, distinguish between those two, and, some different strategies. Balancing being fair and flexible in your grading practices. That's big. From the faculty, that seemed to be a very hot topic. Being firm and flexible with your assessment deadlines. I mean, how often can you say, it's due in 2 weeks, I'll give you 1 extra day. I mean, what are your guidelines? We talked about wikis and how you can use those in your class as sort of like a collaborative assignment and discussion. And then we finished last semester with our woes and our wins, just with what worked and what didn't work, and reflection, and kind of going back and making some changes for next time. What would you do differently? That type of thing. For coming up ideas, we have things like we talked about gamification and better use of discussion boards instead of that dreaded, post 250 words by Sunday, respond to 3 people. So some other techniques that you could use discussion boards for. Classroom management techniques is important and worthy of a whole, I think, day conference, I think. Different tips with your grading procedures, your practices, what works for you. Virtual reality seem to be important for some of you. Scholarship in the classroom. OERs or open educational resources. Jess has some really good examples of that. And then we'd love to hear from you as far as other suggestions and ideas that you feel worthy of kind of talking about. And Tuesdays at noon to 1, it's just a Zoom link. And when you, if you want to participate, I will collect all those responses in the Google form that's going to come up next. And then I can kind of build a list and send out the Zoom link for you. It's just a recurring meeting. You come and go. It's very flexible, very fluid. And we'd love to have as much conversation as we possibly can. Let's see. So there's our Google form. Let me just get you that link. Hang on a second. This will, this is just to sign up, and I will just kind of add you to a list. Hang on a second. And there's the link for the Google Doc. It's just an email address and your name. And yeah, we don't need anything more than that. It's very informal in that nature. And then lastly, we have suggestions on, oh, you know what? Something that I forgot to mention. On February 2nd, we're going to have Hadar Borden from the Blackstone Launchpad talk to us about innovation sprints in the classroom and how, if that's something that is of interest to you. Jess Kruger did that. We had the opportunity of coming in as a face-to-face, and it's interesting to see how Hadar can change that into an online environment, or, you know, manipulate that, if you will, to an online environment. So feel free to join us. And again, I will send you the Zoom link to that. And what else? Did I get everything there, Miss Jess?
Yeah, that was excellent. Thanks so much for everyone for joining and testing this out and thinking about it. You know, it's, I think it's a great way to meet new people all around the university, where, especially when we're in this online environment where it could be really challenging to meet like-minded folks. And this is just a great way to connect and get support. So we'll stick around for any questions. You have the links. Feel free to reach out. We're happy to chat and work with you through any of these. So thank you.
I think there's just a quick question of whether this is limited to UB faculty or whether this extends outside the UB environment.
I don't think we put any restrictions on it, so the more the merrier.
It says UB email, but if that doesn't matter.
Just pretend it says email.
Okay.
We'll
Also,
add you to our list, sir.
Do you have what is the design you used for this PowerPoint? Like the design?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked. Let me show you. This is actually from Slide Carnival. If anyone does not use Slide Carnival, it makes things look very fancy that aren't always fancy. So check them out, download it. It's they have all sorts of different templates to utilize in different ways if you're graphically oriented to
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, what I would encourage everybody to do is, I've been posting throughout the day on the chat, our UBCEI email. We would love to get your feedback on these kind of events. We would love to hear any ideas you have for topics for future events. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. We would love to hear from you. I want to give just a final thank you to all the presenters today. I think everybody just did a tremendous job throughout the whole morning. I'm very confident that everybody who attended this morning, I think we met our goal of having people leave here with some very great concrete tips and tricks and practices that they can implement into their spring courses and beyond. So Thank you again to all our presenters. Thanks again to all our attendees, our UB faculty, staff, our SUNY colleagues. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Give us your feedback, and everybody just go have a safe and wonderful afternoon. Thanks for coming today.